The Thule Society is one of those topics where, honestly, the popular understanding has almost nothing to do with the historical reality. If you ask the average person, or worse, consult certain corners of the internet, you'll hear about a secret order of occult adepts who practiced black magic, worshipped the black sun, and, believe it or not, built flying saucers powered by alternative energies. You'll hear that this cabal was the true hidden power behind Adolf Hitler, manipulating him like a puppet to carry out their esoteric agenda. This makes for a compelling story, featured in Hollywood films and sensational paperbacks. But it is, to put it charitably, a fantasy. The real Thule Society was smaller, shorter-lived, and far more political than mystical. It was not a coven of sorcerers, but a reactionary discussion club. And understanding what it actually was, and what it actually did, reveals something far more unsettling about how power is built. Not through occult rituals, but through networks, money, and the ruthless exploitation of political chaos. The actual origins of the Thule Society lie not in ancient runes or esoteric lore, but in the shattered aftermath of the First World War. It was founded in Munich in 1918 by a man named Rudolf von Sebottendorf, an adventurer and freemason with a keen interest in mysticism. The group was essentially a front, a cover name for the Munich chapter of a larger, pre-existing nationalist organization called the Germanenorden, which itself was part of the Völkisch movement, a racial and nationalist ideology that sought to unite the German people based on blood and soil. Sebottendorf gave the group the name Thule after a mythical northern land from Greek legend, which occultists of the day associated with the lost homeland of the Aryan race. So yes, there was a racial occult component to their beliefs. Members had to sign a blood declaration swearing they had no Jewish or non-European ancestry. But the idea that the society was primarily focused on summoning dark forces or achieving spiritual enlightenment is a distortion. The Thule Society was, at its core, a political discussion group for disaffected aristocrats, wealthy middle-class citizens, and former soldiers who were terrified of communism and blamed Jews for Germany's defeat. Its activities were far more political than magical. In the winter of 1918 and the spring of 1919, Munich was gripped by revolution. The monarchy had fallen, and a socialist government, and then a communist council republic, took power. For the members of the Thule Society, many of whom were aristocrats, this was an existential threat. Their response was not to cast spells, but to organize. They bought a local newspaper, the Münchener Beobachter, to spread their propaganda. A paper that would later become the Nazi Party's official Völkischer Beobachter. They raised funds. They built a network of contacts among other right-wing militias and political groups. And they actively plotted against the communist government. When the communists got wind of this, they raided the society's headquarters and took 7 members into custody, including several prominent aristocrats and the society's original founder, Walter Neuhaus. These 7 were executed by firing squad in April of 1919. The Thule Society had not just been a talking shop, it had become a target. Its members paid for their political activities with their lives. This brutal event turned them into martyrs for the right-wing cause and hardened the resolve of those who survived. This brings us to the society's most significant and, honestly, lasting legacy. Its role in the birth of what became the Nazi Party. One of the Thule Society's members, a man named Karl Harrer, was actually tasked by the group's leadership to establish contacts with radical workers in Munich. Harrer, along with a locksmith named Anton Drexler, went on to found a tiny political committee in January of 1919 called the Deutsche Arbeiterpartei, the German Workers' Party. The Thule Society provided the initial seed money, the early membership, and the ideological framework as well. This was the small fringe group that a young army veteran named Adolf Hitler was sent to investigate in September of that same year. Hitler did not found the party, he joined it. And he did so because the groundwork had already been laid by men connected to the Thule Society. Historian Ian Kershaw notes that the Society's membership list reads like a who's who of early Nazi sympathizers, including figures like Rudolf Hess and Alfred Rosenberg. But here is where the historical record diverges sharply from the myth. Hitler himself was never a member. There is no evidence he ever attended a meeting. The Society's diary, kept by a man named Johannes Hering, makes no mention of him. And by the time the Nazi Party began its rise in the 1920s, the Thule Society was already fading into irrelevance. Hitler, focused on mass mobilization and street politics, had little use for a secretive club of aristocrats. He actively severed the party's formal ties with the group, and by 1925, the Thule Society had dissolved. When Sebottendorf returned to Germany in 1933 and published a book claiming the Society had paved the way for Hitler, the Nazis were furious. The book was banned, and Sebottendorf was arrested and forced to flee the country. The regime had no interest in sharing credit with an occult discussion group. They were building a totalitarian state, not a mystic order. So, what is the lesson here for the serious student of history? The real Thule Society was not powerful because of its occult knowledge. It was powerful because it understood a fundamental truth about political change. In the chaos of 1919, while the world focused on the communists in the streets, the Thule Society was operating in the drawing rooms and coffeehouses of Munich, building a counter-revolutionary network. They had money. They had a newspaper. They had social connections. And they used these conventional tools to nurture a political party that would eventually harness the fury of the masses. The lesson is that the infrastructure of power is often built quietly, behind closed doors, by small groups of dedicated people who share a worldview. We look for the sensational, the flying saucers, and the black magic, because it is easier to process than the uncomfortable truth. That history is often shaped by a handful of determined individuals working in the shadows of a failing state. The Thule Society was not a den of evil magicians. It was something more disturbing. It was a seedbed for a political movement that would plunge the world into World War II, and it succeeded not through the occult, but through the cold, calculating application of money, propaganda, and human connection. If you found this deeper look into the overlooked corners of history valuable, take a moment to subscribe to Warmachina. We put in the work to separate fact from fantasy, so you don't have to. Share this video with someone who appreciates history that goes beyond the surface.